Okay, so the Year 10 General Maths Linear Straight Line Revision Sheet. So the first one says, find the gradient through the following points. So we need to remember the rule, which we can use the letter M for the gradient. And we're going to use this y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. All that is you're labelling one of the points, point 1 and point 2. It doesn't matter which one, but I'm going to call the first one point 1. So that becomes x1 and y1, and then the second one will be x2, y2. So then once you've written the formula, you just pop in the numbers. So for me, y2 was 1, and then it's minus a minus 2. So y1 was minus 2. So notice I still keep that other minus there because that's part of the formula. And then you have 5 minus 2. So if you've got a minus and a minus, what does that become? A positive. Good. So my answer, I've got 3 over 3, which equals 1. Good. So that's the gradient. So we can do the same here. We can write the formula out again. So write the formula so you can always get consequential marks. So consequential marks means if your theory was correct, like you were going around the right process, but you just made a numerical error, like you might have said 1 plus 2 is 2 or something, and that we know that you understand the rule, but you just got it wrong, we can pop that in. All right, so let's do this one. So y2 was 7, and then we've got minus 5 over negative 3 minus 3. Okay, so 7 minus 5 is 2. Now, if you've got a minus and you minus it even more, what does that become? Minus 3 minus 3 is 6. Now, if you've got a positive over a negative, what does that become? It's still a negative, isn't it? Now, if you look, 2 goes into that once. How many times does 2 go into 6?
3 times.
3 times. So if you simplified that, that would actually be 1 over negative 3. Okay, so the next one says determine the rule for the straight line passing through the point given below. All right, so first of all, we've got to remember what's the basic rule for a straight line? It's y equals what? mx plus c. Good. So we've already been given m, so we can plug that in so far. So we could say we've got y equals 2x plus c at the moment. Okay, so what we're going to do now is we're going to use this point and we're going to pop it in there so that we can work out what c is. So when they've given you a point there, they've said when x equals 6, y equals 2. So every time you see y in the formula, you put a 2. See there, because that's 2, I'll put y. And every time I see the x, what am I doing? Every time I see the x, I'm going to put a 6 and then plus c. Okay? If you're not very good at doing your rearranging and solving an equation, you can even at this point put solve if you like. So you can go solve, type this out, and then go comma c. Okay? If we're doing it manually, it's not too hard. You'd have, what's 2 times 6? 12 plus c. And so what actually happens is we bring this 12 over an equal sign, and that 12's like plussing there. So what's the opposite to plussing? Yeah, so you'd have, sorry, I'm just going to continue over here. You'd have 2 minus 12 equals c. So that would be what? Negative 10. And therefore you can write the equation now. You know that it's 2x minus 10. So you've got all the pieces of information and we can pop it there. All right, so the next one, we've got to do an extra step because we haven't been given the gradient number. We have to work it out. So I'm going to work out the gradient using my y2 minus y1, x2 minus x1 formula. So I'll label them up. If I label that up, you don't make mistakes and you substitute in properly. It makes it better. So we've got 11 minus 8 over negative 6 minus 3. So 11 minus 8 is 3. And what's negative 6 minus a 3? Good, minus 9. And can we simplify that? That would be 1 over 3. Good. So if you pop it in your calculator, press enter, it will simplify it for you. So now we're going to keep going. So we need to get the equation. So we know the equation's this formula, mx plus c. And now we know the m. So really I can say the m is a negative a third x plus c. So what you're going to do is you use a point. So I can use any point. So I'm going to use this one. And every time in my formula where I see an x, I'll put a 3. And when I see a y, I'll put an 8. So I've got, I've got 8 equals, because that's what y. Now, negative 1/3 times 3 plus c. Now, because we know we're all not very good on the fractions and that, this one you should definitely just pop it into solve and go comma c. Yeah, and work out what C is. So if we go back, we know C equals 9. So you can now write out the formula. So sometimes we write this, which means therefore. So y equals negative a third x plus 9. There's the formula for that equation. Okay, with this next one, it's not too hard because they're actually giving you everything. So if the gradient is 3, so you know the m value there. And they said also it's passing through the origin. What does the origin mean? 0, 0. So what is actually happening if you've got this line here, your Cartesian plane or your axes, whatever you want to call it. It's cutting through here, like going through 0, 0. It could be doing that or it could be doing that way. But if it's going through 0, 0, where's it cutting the y-intercept? Where does it cut this y-intercept? It cuts it at 0. And doesn't C tell you the y-intercept? Isn't that the y-intercept? Yes? So if it's 0, then you could pretty much write this. So we know the basic formula is this. Wouldn't it be y equals negative 3x plus 0? But do we really need to have the 0 there? No. So we can just write it's y equals negative 3x, like that. So let's do this last one. So they told me the gradient, so you know the m value there, and they didn't give me the y-intercept here. They've given me the x-intercept. So what the x-intercept is isn't that when you cross the x-axis? Yes? If you're crossing the x-axis, what's the value of y at that point? Say you were crossing there, that was at negative 2 or something. What's the y value? 0. So you know, when they tell you they've got the x-intercept, you actually know a point. You actually know that it's 4, 0. So if we were writing out our basic equation, we write y equals mx plus c, like what we've been doing. They told me what the gradient was, so I'll write y equals negative x plus c. So now when I'm used to have to go find, the value of c, I normally use another point. So I'm going to use this point to find it. So I'm going to use 4, 0 into my y equals negative x plus c. So every time I see a y, I'll put a 0, and every time I saw an x, I'll put a 4. So that would be 0 equals, what's negative 1 times 4? Yeah, negative 4 plus c. You brought that 4 on the other side to become a positive 4, so you know c is 4 now. So therefore this equation is y equals negative x plus 4. You don't have to have that 1 there because we know it's a 1 if we don't. But you're not going to get marked wrong if you don't. So if you do, sorry. So it doesn't matter. Let's do these ones. Using the calculator, sketch the following. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to a calculator page, and when that's that one that looks like it's got a graph like that on your calc page. And often with these ones, you'll see at the top, you can enter these straight in. It often has F bracket X there like that, and you will just type in the 3x minus 1 and press enter. So, alright, so we've gone and drawn it on our calculator, but now you have to put it onto the paper. So you need to have rulers in your tests, because there's always marks given for using a ruler, and it's ruled. So I've drawn the axes up like that. I've labelled them. So you put your little arrows. We're going to have y, negative y, x, and negative x. If you look, our graph, when we did it on the calculator, our line looked that way. So we went like that. Doesn't really matter. You just draw it in the way it sort of was, and then you just pop the points. So when we traced it, we found that was 0.33, 0, and this point was 0, negative 1. And then all you have to do then is just write the equation on the line, and you're done. All right, so we're doing this second one here. Okay, and we've gone to our calculator, and we've drawn it up on the calculator, and we've traced it using geometry and points and lines. Okay, so rule up our axes, label our axes so we get the points for that. We're going to draw the line. This one's line looked like this way because it's a negative graph. And then we drew and we saw that that was 0.5, and this one was 2.5, 0, and then you might just write the equation on the line. Okay, done, full marks. Okay, so we're going to use our calculator again and find the x and y intercepts, which we've been doing anyway, and sketch the following. So, oops, sorry. I've gone into the calc page, one of those graph pages, and I've typed the first one in, 4x plus 6, and hopefully... Okay, so this had came up, and you had then gone and done points and lines, and you had found the intercepts here. So when you go to sketch it, all you're sketching is you sketch your axes, sketch your line, and then you type those points in and you'll get your full marks. Now with this next one, with B, you can see it's not in that same format anymore. So this is where we've got to go and change the graph entry. So for this part B, we've gone into a graph page, and we've then gone and pressed menu, and we've gone to graph entry here, number 3, and I think we went to equation underneath that, and we've gone and we've picked a line, and we want this last one here because that's what our formula looks like. So then you look at your question. Now you have to be really careful. The number that's in front of y has to go in the y spot in your calculator. So they wrote y first in the question here, but it's written second in your calculator, and then I've put the 2, and then you press enter. So then once you've done that and you put your 10 in, you should get your graph, which hopefully I printed. Hopefully this was, no, that wasn't it. Cancel. Alright, so we sketched that one up on our calculator. We can't see it, but we can here, but we can do it here. So this one looked like this. Now remember, label your axes, y, x, negative x, we've done points and lines and we've traced that, and that's 0.25, and this one is 5 and 0. On the sketch the following on the same set of axes. So we'll draw a set of axes. Okay, so you label it up. And let's do the first one. So we might pick different colours. So this first one, y equals -2. When it's y equals -2, all you have to do is go find where -2y would be, which would be down here, wouldn't it? Yeah? Somewhere in that area. And a y equals just a number is actually a straight line like that, yeah? That's y equals -2. And that point here would be -2. What type of gradient is that one?
Zero.
No, that one's a 0 gradient. When it's flat, it's 0. Okay, so if you look at this next one, the x equals 5, what you do is you go to where, like, it doesn't matter. You're only sketching, you just have to be in the right area, vicinity. Like, if I was sketching x equals 5, I need to be out here, not over here, yeah? So I just draw a straight line like that. That's what an x equals. This is x equals 5. Just show that I went through 5. Now, what's this one's gradient? Good. This one's an undefined gradient. Yeah. And then we'll do this last one in green. Y equals 4x. I'll tell you a quick way to do them. Is this a positive or negative graph? It's positive gradient, good. And does a positive gradient, it goes that way, doesn't it? Don't they go uphill, left to right? Yeah? So see how there's no y-intercept, is there? Well, there's no number, no y-intercept. That means it equals 0. So those ones, when it's just y equals, say, 4x or something, they go through the origin like that. If it was a -4x, it'd go like the other way. Wait a minute, I'll just put that one. So just pop it that it goes through 0, 0. But I'll do another one. Say if you had y equals -2x, that one is a negative gradient. It would go like that, yeah? That would be that way. It can just save you time, so you don't have to muck around too much. This one, did the purple line ever cut the y-axis? No. Make sure you're reading the questions carefully, because sometimes I find you are doing things that you're not even asked to do. So here, they just want me to state the gradient and the y-intercept. So I'm not sketching it, so don't waste your time sketching it. All you got to tell me is, what's the gradient for this one? 3. And what's the y-intercept? 7. Good. Now, with this one, we have to be careful. Is this in y equals format? No. So what you want to do, if you accidentally get one of them, is you take this, and on your calculator, write solve, put what they gave you, and then go comma y. And it'll tell you in one y format. I'll show you. Okay, so we've done that on our calculator, and it ended up being y equals 3x plus 5. So now you can tell me what's the gradient? 3. And what's the y-intercept? 5. Good. Okay, what's the gradient for this one? Think back about that graph. This one looks like this, yeah? So this line, looks like that on the axis. So what's the gradient? It is 0. Good, excellent. So the gradient is 0, and what's the y-intercept? Where does it cut y? At -8. Yes? All right, what about this one? What's the gradient? What did we say with those ones? X equals 2? It was a straight up and down line. Yeah? It looks like this line, so it is undefined. And does it ever cut the y-axis? Look back. So, what's the y-intercept? There is none, isn't there? So, no y-intercept for that one. Alright, a pizza shop charges a delivery fee of $2.50 and $8.50 for each pizza, large pizza. Determine the linear rule that relates the total cost of the pizza and the amount of pizzas ordered. So they're telling us here, when they say the C, so first of all they said it follows a linear rule. That means straight line. So for us, we know that a straight line follows that formula, doesn't it? Y equals mx plus c. Yes? So instead of having y, they're going to have cost. So we're going to call that, this y will be c. And instead of having x, they've got pizzas, the number of pizzas or whatever. So that'll become a p. So at the moment, we know our formula will be cost equals, we've still got to find out what m is, and we're going to say times p, and then plus the c, the y-intercept. It's a bit annoying because they use the same letter, but we'll deal with it. Now, remember this c value here, when I'm talking about it, this one here, that's like the y-intercept, but what that is in a practical term is what do you have to pay no matter what? You know, whether I ordered 1, 2, 3 or 4 pizzas, what am I going to pay? The $2.50 because it's a delivery fee, isn't it? Yeah? So this is the $2.50. And then how much will my bill go up for each pizza? $8.50. So can you see $8.50? Could I say it's $8.50 per pizza? Could I say that? Does that still say the same? Do you remember when I said the word per means the gradient? So you can see it there. So you know that you've now got the rule for cost is actually $8.50 or $8.50 times P plus $2.50. Yeah, so we've got the rule. So they want you to graph that, and you can go and do that on your calculator if you want to, but it's not too hard anyway. So look, what can we do? Let's go. Now, remember the other day when I said, would we have negative amounts of pizzas? No. And would we get a negative cost? No. So we're not going to have that. Now, what did you tell me? How much would it cost no matter what? If he comes out, $2.50. So that means it starts up at $2.50. Now, they just said to draw a line. So let's just pick, do an easy. We'll go, what if you got 10 pizzas? How much would it cost you? $10, 10 times $8.50 is what? $85 plus $2.50. What's that? $87.50. Do you agree? Yes. Yeah. So if we do 10 pizzas, we'd have the point 10 and $87.50. Okay? So that's all you have to do. When it says draw a line, just do that. And look, it even asks you in the next question. If Pippo bought 10 pizzas, what would his cost be? Well, here's my formula. I'm going to substitute 10 in. So you can do this on your calculator and you get $87.50. Okay, so you spend that. If Mary spent $189.50 on her order, how many pizzas did she order? So P's the question, and they gave me a C. So if you pop that into your formula, it's only the P you don't know, so you can pop it into your calculator and go solve. Okay, so, alright, so look, shush, let's get it. P equals 22. So Mary, how many pizzas? Mary had 22 pizzas.
I said 25.
No, it was 22.